What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Listen. This is interesting. Instead of just having an era where a lot of NBA players complain, we can see, partially it's connected to LBJ, of course, because he's been one of the biggest crybabies out there. But now we have coaches that actually complain and play victim, that they can't do what coaches used to do because they just don't have enough time. So what I'm alluding to is there was a recent interview with a coach by the name of Steve Kerr, who is the coach of the Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and all those guys. Multiple championships, blah, blah, blah. But he also gave most of the credit during that interview, but I'm not going to show you that part, to Steph Curry. And he said that if I did not have Steph Curry, I would be just a regular coach. And I agree with that. I agree with that assessment of Steve Kerr. But the views that the guy holds kind of reflect his thinking and playing the victim in this situation. And I'm going to show you the clip that I'm talking about of him complaining about issues as a coach compared to guys in the past. So watch this clip real quick of Steve Kerr complaining and crying, and then I'm going to respond to it with actual facts that prove him completely wrong. So here's the clip.
I just think it's really important to collaborate with your staff and to encourage the young coaches to really bring a lot of ideas to the table. I really lean on my younger coaches. One of the ways the league is so different now is that we're now a developmental league. When you came into the league, when I was in the league, we were already developed. You played for Coach K for 4 years. I played for Lute Olson for 4 years. We were ready, and the other part that was different was the schedule was different. So we'd have like 3 games in 4 nights. Then you'd have 4 days off. So you'd have 2 great practices. Now the schedule is basically you play every other day all year long. We don't practice anymore. So we have to develop these 19-year-old kids who are coming into the league without much practice time. That has meant an entirely revamped kind of development program. And frankly, I'm not great with it. Like, I'm an older coach. I'm a disciple of Phil and Pop. And so I lean on the young guys to really install great development drills, decision-making stuff, things that I never did or knew how to teach. But the key is to figure that out and let the people who can do those things, let them do it and empower them. And I think that's how you progress.
Okay, so you heard Steve Kerr. And there's one thing that I do agree with from him, and that was something that he said in the beginning, where when he came into the league, he had a couple years in college. He was ready to play. Shane was ready to play. He was talking to Shane Battier. The thing is, you still have a lot of players coming in from college, and it's not so much that they're not ready physically. Yes, they're not as developed as they should be, and that's on the college part and the AAU and everything, all of that. But it's also a very big mental part of it. They're not developed mentally. They're still children coming into the NBA, looking to show off, looking to party, looking to do all that stuff. And Michael Jordan was perfectly right about what he said in the past. And he said these young guys come in, they get a ton of money when they haven't really proven anything. And that kills the work ethic. And that is 100% on point. So that's why I can't wait for MJ to be on NBC. And I hope he puts out as many comments like that, honest, as he possibly can. But the big thing I don't agree here with Steve Kerr, and he's crying about something that really doesn't exist. And I have a little bit of a helping piece of paper here for me, and I'm going to tell you something. Steve Kerr is complaining that he doesn't have time during the season to develop his players. He's complaining that they're a developmental league right now and all that stuff. And he's complaining that, they used to have like 3 days in between or 4 days in between that they could schedule practice in there and stuff like that. And there wasn't that many of those occasions. And I actually compared 2 seasons. One season, the last season, which was the 2025 season, and a 1994-95 season where Steve Kerr was still in the league. And both schedules I compared from were Chicago Bulls. So let me just tell you something. Teams played 82 games in each of those seasons. It took 175 days in 2025 to complete an 82-game schedule for the Chicago Bulls. 175 days. In 1994, it took the Chicago Bulls 170 days to complete an 82-game schedule. So they actually completed a schedule faster, meaning they had to have a little bit less time off. Now, if we look at days off during all of that, so in 2025, in those 175 days, when you subtract 82 games for that season, teams had 93 off days. 93 off days. In 1994, Chicago Bulls, of course, I'm talking about. In 1994, compared to 2025, where Chicago Bulls had 93 days off, in 1994, they actually had 88 days off. So they had 5 days less of days off. Now, if you look at through the whole schedule, and I did that, I just did that. I went through the whole schedule of 2025 for Chicago Bulls and 1994 for Chicago Bulls. And I looked through the whole schedule, and I found gaps where the team had a break between games of 2 days or more, 2 or more days. In 2025, there was 17 gaps like that during the season. So they had 17 gaps like that. So you could imagine from what Steve Kerr is telling you that they had so much more time to develop these players and schedule extra practices and all that other stuff. They would probably have double that, maybe 30, 30 breaks of, 2 days or more. No, that's not true. They actually had 18. In 1994, Chicago Bulls had 18 breaks in between games of 2 days off or more, compared to 17 in 2025. So 1 freaking break difference. And he's complaining he doesn't have as much time as coaches used to have to develop them, the players. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Another thing I'm going to mention, which he's, talking about close to the end of his comments, is that he's an old school coach, and he's talking about not really knowing what to and how to implement these new things that are in developing players and things like that. And he's saying literally he's depending on his younger staff to pretty much do the work for him. He's like, I'm leaning on my guys. I'm empowering them. They can do whatever they have to do. I'm leaning on them. They know what they're doing. I don't. So you can't freaking learn to get involved into all this. You just delegate and leave it alone. So what the hell are you actually doing? Like, maybe I'm overreacting a little bit. The guy is a head coach. He's making the decisions during the game. He's doing this, he's doing that. A lot of things that he's supposed to be involved in is getting delegated. And his staff is getting empowered and they're doing stuff for him. Okay, fine. That's what you have your staff for. But to complain that you don't have enough time compared to coaches like in the 90s when he was playing and, Pop era and Phil Jackson era. That's the Phil Jackson and the Pop era. 90s. That's the biggest part of their era right there. So, as I just read you the stats, your seasons are not that much different. You have 1 less gap during the season about one less gap of, 2 days or more off, where you can schedule an extra practice, do whatever you have to do. And your season actually takes freaking longer to complete than it took in 1994. And I read it was by 5 days. In 1994, teams had Chicago Bulls had 88 days off. And in 2025, they had 93. So you have more days off. So what the hell are you crying and complaining about? This is like, seriously, this is getting into coaches now. Crying, complaining. I don't have enough time. I can't do it on my own. This and that. No wonder these players are like that. We're getting coaches like that. Man, can you imagine a guy like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan coaching a team, being the head coach, saying shit like this? We don't have enough time to practice with them. He would practice whenever he had a freaking day off and would not complain. This guy complains. And I don't want to get into his other views or whatever, but it kind of goes in line with complaining, victimizing himself, all their other stuff. It's not really my fault. The season's different. I can't do what they used to do because, just circumstances are different. Bullshit. I don't like this kind of stuff. I don't like it. It's not true. I just proved it to you. I checked the facts. I went by basketball reference, game by game, gap by gap. I confirmed everything. It's not true what he's saying. They have the same time off or even freaking more. There are stretches where they're playing every other game, and I can see that in the schedule, and he's right about that. But it's not the damn full season. There's a lot of days off. A lot of days off. You can schedule practices. But they're treating these players like babies. Like Charles Oakley said, it's like daycare these days. And that's why we have the culture that we have. Everything is softer. Everything is softer. Don't push him too hard. Don't strain him too hard. Don't work him too hard. You don't want him to break down mentally. I can't scream at him. Get the hell out of here, man. This is ridiculous to me. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Share your thoughts in the comments. Like, share video, subscribe to the channel as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.